In this video, we will look at dividing a unit fraction by a whole number. This standard is the first time that students are dividing with fractions. In fourth grade, students divided whole numbers and multiplied a whole number by a fraction. Students are, however, familiar with the concept of a unit fraction from their work in fourth grade. A unit fraction is a fraction that has 1 as the numerator. It is important to note that the algorithm to divide fractions should not be introduced to students with their work with this standard. Rather, students should create models when solving the word problems. Let's take a look at the word problem here. It says Miles plans to use all the fabric he has to make 3 patches for his friend. If Miles has 1/6 yards of fabric and he will use an equal amount of fabric for each patch, how much fabric does he use for each patch? So, what we know here is that Miles is going to use all of the fabric that he has to make 3 patches. Well, we know the amount of fabric he has is 1/6 of a yard. And we see that he's going to use an equal amount of fabric for each patch. That lets me know that I need to take the 1/6 of the yard that he has, and I need to divide that into 3 equal parts, because he's going to use that 1/6 of a yard to make 3 patches. And each patch will use an equal amount of fabric. So to begin to solve, the first thing that we're going to do is let's represent this 1/6. So I'll just draw an area model and split this into 6 equal parts. And I'm going to shade in the amount that Miles has, which is 1/6 of a yard. And I'm going to label that. So this is 1/6 of a yard of fabric. Now, we know that that 1/6 of the yard of fabric that he has is going to be used to make 3 patches, and it's going to use an equal amount of fabric for each patch. So what we could do now is take this 1/6 and split it into 3 equal parts. That 1/6 of a yard is going to be split equally among those 3 patches. So I'm going to split that into 3 equal parts. And now we can work to determine how much that means he'll use for each patch. So I might label this. I'm going to label this. Well, this piece would be for patch 1. He would use this part for patch 2. And he would use this part for patch 3. Our job is to figure out, well, how much of the fabric does each of those parts represent? And so what we need to do then is figure out, well, what fraction of that yard of fabric does each of those sections represent? So let's see. So I see that each patch is getting 1 out of, we have to see here, it's out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 1 out of 18 parts. So that means each patch is using 1/18 of a yard of fabric. So for each of those patches. And so what that shows us is that 1/6 divided by 3 is equal to 1/18. Or we could say, how much fabric does he use for each patch? He uses 1/18 of a yard. Now, we can think about how this is a reasonable answer because we know that 1/18 is less than 1/6, and that makes sense here. We took 1/6 and we split that 6th into 3 equal parts. Well, the amount that would be in each part definitely has to be less than 1/6 because our 1/6 was broken into 3 equal parts. We know that 1/18 is less than 1/6, so that is pretty reasonable. And so again, this is how we can divide a unit fraction by a whole number.